attenuator here. We're gonna do a reveal here. Hopefully you can't see it back there, but I've been up to this for a few months now after being at it for a number of years and putting it away. What is that? I got a push 2 to control Ableton because I was getting a little pissed off at the Akai Force and its workflow in the arrangement mode. More on that, and I'm still working through it and getting some tracks put out in their final form, but I wanted to go here and discuss why. So I've got a few things going in this from way long ago, and then from a few years ago, and then recent tracks, and I kind of shelved all that for the Akai Force. So now I get to dig back in, finish some tracks, apply the knowledge I've learned from the Force with this 8x8 grid and its workflow, and compare the ins and outs of the two. Now, the reason I had to do this is because the Akai Force does not sequence with Ableton Live. And I'll get into that in a little bit. We'll discuss how to work with this in the most quick and efficient manner. But first, let's get into some settings. We're going to get this set up, and then we'll dive right in. I'm going to make a track today in 48K for a video that I'm dropping for us snow and ski board. Ski and snowboarding up in Quandary and a few other places that we've been up in the last few weeks. I'm going to put out that track as fast as possible tonight, start to finish. So here we go. We start by opening Ableton Live and go Live, Preferences. We'll start at the top with Look and Feel, and we'll hit every single one of these. Nothing really important on this page, and I'm never really here. This is for kind of how you look at the page. I don't really care about any of this. That's why it starts you here. So driver type, core audio is likely what you're going to have. Windows users have a couple options for their drivers, and you'll need to do some reading on that to decide what you want to use. For Mac users, core audio is it. Select your output device. For me, that's the Model 16, 14 in, or 16 in, 14 out. And then I can also use that for my input device. You can do input configuration. And take a look here and pause the screen. This is how I have mine set up. You can go back in and edit these. This is what it appears when you go into here and try to do a drop down for your ins and outs. So now it comes up with a label. So let's go back to input. And if I did want to record in Bluetooth, then I could input it here, and I can see that 1314 is my Bluetooth. That's what this is for. Audio box stereo, 11 and 12. And right now that would probably be the circuit tracks. That goes off to the right. So see, I need to do some more work on my my inputs here. But for now, we'll go back out, and the outputs is what we want to look at real quick. So if I was to do mono outputs and mix with the mixer to do a recording in the Tascam Model 16, for instance, I could send mono 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and then on my routing here, I would choose the routings back here for output. Oh, that's MIDI. Audio to external out, and then you can send it to specific places. So we'll go back to master there, and preferences. So for here, the output, right now I'm just doing 13 and 14 as the master left right, and then sometimes I send it through 1 and 2 if I'm doing other things. So those are both active. And then if I wanted to send and record live into the Tascam, I'll enable both of these, and then I can send mono signals in stem style, drum, bass, synth, and vocal. Look what it just defaulted to. Sample rate of 4800. Now, I've been working in live, and I'm pretty sure that I've set this to 44.1, so make sure you look at it in your sample tracks. If you're at 48, That's for film and required for film, and also can be downsampled to 41 or 44.1. I'm sorry. So you cannot, however, upsample very well. So you don't want to do work at 44.1 that you intend to do for video. Start at 48 there. I always start at 44.1 on any music project because that's what the force works in, and so many other things, and that's what your final bounce is going to be when you're sharing this to people. So buffer size 256, you can lower that, but if you have problems and glitches, bump it back up. We'll go 64. And most of this other stuff you won't need to mess with. Touch tone. This is probably the most important page we'll work with. Show the link toggle, that's up here to link with, able to see what this will link with DJ programs, Tractor Serato, and Pioneer's Record Box. It will link with the Akai Force, and so to be able to just click the link right there, you need to show the toggle. Start stop sync is on. Show tempo follower toggle. That might be for like nudging, and it's following a tempo from audio inputs. There it is, input channels 1 and 2. So it's going to sense audio from an input and give you a tempo so that you can do nudging with Ableton Live if you're following a live drummer, for instance. So in Midi, this has all my control surfaces. When you plug in your push 2, it automatically populates here, and if it doesn't, then there's something wrong. Push 2 is plug and play. It should do its own firmware update immediately when you plug it in, and you don't need to do any setting changes. So what threw me off is that it didn't even appear down here. So for me, my launch key I sometimes use, and then the Akai Force is a control surface, and you'll notice the inputs here for everyone you want to track that shows up in your options for drop downs. Sync, there's a whole video on this. Sync will send a signal to synchronize it, and so this being the brain, it would send to the force and some of the other things here. And then remote, I believe that's for it controlling this, like it can remote transport controls, etc. And then MPE is something they just added in 11, I believe. And I think that's polyphonic expression, the MIDI polyphonic expression for some of the newer, whatever that plasticky keyboard is that you can touch funny. So we'll move on. That's the important screen. File folder. I don't change anything here. You can put a different temporary folder, but this seems just fine with me. And then library. Collect files on export always. Show downloadable packs. A couple browse locations. Plugins. I have not changed anything here, I don't believe. So if you have your VSTs in a custom folder, you can set your custom folder locations here, and everything's default there, I believe. Record, launch, and warp is the other important screen. So here we're declaring that when we record, we want to do an AIFF at 24-bit. Quick little 1-bar count in. All this is default. So looping and warping for short samples is on auto. Default warp mode, which you'll need to try each of these out, and there's like a whole video on this. But leave it on beats for now, unless you find that you and your style jams with like tones and something else along those lines. Let's see. I don't think I changed anything on those. Licenses, whatever, moving on. That's it. We've got Ableton Live set up. So we've got Ableton Live opened up. The push is plugged in. Power is on. The boot up screen. If it sticks on push, reboot it. Make sure it's done its firmware updates and that your live is updated.